Inshallah ta'ala, we will start today by talking in general about fasting. We are in the month of Ramadan. Ramadan Mubarak to all of you, inshallah. It is a blessed month, inshallah. Today in general, we will talk about fasting, and tomorrow, inshallah, we will start with the chapter of beliefs with the meaning of the two testifications of faith. The month of Ramadan is the 9th lunar month. It is the best month of the year. And in this month is the best night of the year, which is the night of Al-Qadr. In Arabic, Laylatul Qadr. So Ramadan is the best month of the year. It is the 9th lunar month. And in this month is the best night of the year, which is the night of Al-Qadr. In the month of Ramadan, the Quran in its entirety was brought down to Bayt al-Izzah, from the tablet, from Al-Lawh al-Mahfuz to Bayt al-Izzah in the lowest sky, in its entirety. And that was on the night of Al-Qadr. After that, Jibreel alayhi salam used to come down with it, with the Quran, upon our Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam in parts, meaning in segments. The month of Ramadan, as we said, is the best month of the year. And during this month, the good deeds are, the reward of the good deeds is multiplied. So one should prepare for this blessed month. It was mentioned in a hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam that when the month of Ramadan came, he told the companions that during this month, the gates of the sky are opened, and during it, the gates of hell are closed. And during this month, the big devils are chained. And in it, there is a night that is better than 1,000 months that do not have the night of Al-Qadr in them. This is the night that occurs within the month of Ramadan. And the Prophet ﷺ continued by saying that whoever was deprived of its goodness, the goodness of this month, has indeed been deprived. So we should get ready for the month of Ramadan and meet it with goodness and hard work. This opportunity comes just once per year, and we and millions of Muslims around the world await it with longing, with love and yearning, for it arrives and passes by very fast. And many of us notice that annually when it starts, and then soon we notice it passes by fast. So let every one of us praise Allah and thank Him that He enabled us to live to see Ramadan this year. For we know and we hear of so many people who were alive last year, but they are no longer alive right now. Whether what we are hearing about in Gaza or in many other parts of the world, or among our family members or friends. So being alive during this month is a great opportunity for one to acquire, to gain more reward for our hereafter. It was mentioned in the Qudsi hadith that the reward of every good deed is multiplied by 10 times up to 700 times, except for fasting. Allah Ta'ala rewards, multiplies the reward of fasting by as many times as He wills. The good deeds the reward of the good deeds in Ramadan is multiplied by many times. So the person then during this month should be keen on acquiring and doing many good deeds. Being first fulfilling the obligations, fulfilling the obligatory prayers, and after that doing more of the recommended praying, and also giving charity to the needy, reciting Quran if one has learned the proper recitation from a trustworthy, knowledgeable person, making more dhikr with the proper pronunciation. So one should learn and then apply and do a lot of the good deeds within this blessed month on a daily basis. When the person does that on a daily basis, and during the night, then inshallah, he will be doing good deeds on the night of Al-Qadr, even if the person himself did not witness the signs of the night of Al-Qadr, but at least he was performing good deeds during it. The Messenger of Allah والسلام, also mentioned that during the month of Ramadan, when it comes, there is a caller who calls out, O seeker of good, come forth, and O seeker of evil, refrain. Allah has slaves that shall be liberated from hell, and this happens on every night. So every night there are people that are liberated from hellfire during the month of Ramadan. So after hearing this, there is no excuse for the excuse maker to do, and no time for procrastination or for laziness. Rather, it is the time for ambition, for hard work, for competing to do the good deeds, to encourage one another to do many good deeds during the day and night of this blessed month. Let us not spend it in sleeping a lot, nor in watching movies or in what has no benefit. Rather, think of using every minute of our time within this blessed month in doing what is of reward. And we need to remember the intention when performing the good deeds. So I remind you now to have a sincere intention in your heart, listening to this lesson, and every time you do good deeds within this blessed month to also remember the intention. So inshallah ta'ala, we gain reward from Allah. We will start inshallah by talking about the integrals of fasting, upon whom is Ramadan obligatory to fast. So fasting the month of Ramadan is obligatory upon the accountable Muslim. When we say Muslim, this excludes the kafir, the disbeliever, the non-Muslim. But this does not mean that if the person was accountable and a kafir, a disbeliever, and he died as such, it does not mean that he will not be punished in the hereafter for having left out fasting. No, the kafir who died as an accountable person will be punished for not having fasted on the day of judgment. However, in this life, while this person is a kafir, we do not tell them to fast, because fasting is an act of worship. And the good deeds are not accepted from the kafir. Allah Ta'ala does not accept the good deeds from the kafir. So in this life, first we tell the kafir to become a Muslim, to embrace the religion of Islam by saying the two testifications of faith in any language. So first this person becomes a Muslim, and after that we teach them about the prayer and about fasting. So Fasting then is an obligation upon the accountable Muslim. By saying accountable, we mean then the person who is pubescent, sane, and heard the call of Islam. So we're saying Muslim here. So pubescent and sane. So the person who is insane, crazy, fasting is not an obligation upon this person. And the person who is not pubescent, fasting is not an obligation upon this person. However, the guardian of the child who is mumayyiz in Arabic, which means he attained at an age where he understands when addressed and knows how to answer, and has reached 7 lunar years of age, the guardian of this child is obligated to order this child with fasting if the child can bear fasting. Okay, so the child himself who is not pubescent is not obligated to fast. However, the guardian of this child who has reached 7 lunar years of age and can understand, is mumayyiz, can understand when addressed and answers correctly, he can discern, the guardian is obligated to order this child to fast. And when the child does that with a sincere intention, the child gets reward, inshallah, and that gets the child used to fasting. So then when the child becomes pubescent, he has become used to fasting. And here I want to draw your attention to a matter. We do not tell the child, fast half a day. No, fasting is done from dawn until sunset. So we encourage this child, this mumayyiz child, to fast the whole day. So then fasting is an obligation upon the accountable Muslim, and it is not valid, it is not obligatory nor valid from the female who is in her menses, who has her menses bleeding, or who is in her postpartum bleeding. So the female during her period, during her menses, while she has the blood coming out of the period, menses, or postpartum bleeding, she is not obligated to fast, and it is not valid from her to fast. She is not permitted to fast either. So she doesn't say, oh, I can bear it, so I will fast. No, she is not permitted to fast, and it would not be valid from her. And she is allowed to eat. She doesn't have to, but she is allowed to eat during the day, for she has a valid excuse not to fast. So she's allowed to eat. And if members of her family see her eating, they are not to be harsh with her. She is allowed to do that. Now, if she on her own wants to hide that from them, from her family members, okay, but she is allowed to eat or drink. But she has to make up these days that she has missed after Ramadan, before the Ramadan of the next year comes. Okay, so she then counts, keeps track of the days that she has missed of Ramadan, because she has to make them up then after Ramadan is over, before Ramadan of the next year arrives. Now, as to the traveler, it is permissible for the traveler of a distance which permits the shortening of the prayer not to fast, even if fasting is not difficult for this traveler. So whether this person is traveling by plane, by car, by train, on a horse, if he meets this condition, he is traveling a distance that permits shortening of the prayer, and initiated his travel before dawn, he left the residential perimeter before dawn, then he is allowed not to fast that day, even if fasting is not a difficulty for this person. However, if fasting is not difficult for this person, it's better for them to fast when traveling. And of course, this person would have to make up that day afterwards, after Ramadan. Now, the sick person and also the pregnant woman and the nursing woman are not obligated to fast if it causes them severe difficulty. And here I urge the person who is sick to consult with a doctor, because we're not just talking about, a headache or coughing or a slight fever. So the person consults a trustworthy doctor who is knowledgeable and trustworthy, and sees in regards to his case whether he is not to fast if fasting is a severe difficulty for this person. Because if it is, then the person does not fast and afterwards makes up this day that the person missed during Ramadan. In regards to the woman who is pregnant or nursing, there are details as to when she would just make up the day and when she would also have to pay an expiation fidya. So the woman who is experiencing this particular case would then ask for her case to find out if she is not fasting because it causes her a severe difficulty, whether after Ramadan she just has to make up the day or pay an expiation as well in the case where she is afraid for the baby that is in her womb, or the nursing woman if she is afraid that she would not have any more milk for her baby. So she would need to ask about these particular details. Now, for fasting to be valid, one has to have an intention, a valid intention. And the intention is done at night before dawn of the day that one wants to fast. So one makes the intention anytime after sunset and before dawn, subuh, of the day that one wants to fast. And one can intend, for example, in his heart, he doesn't have to say anything with the tongue, he would intend that he is fasting, he wants to fast the obligatory fasting of Ramadan the next day, because Ramadan is an obligation to fast upon the accountable Muslim. So he would intend to fast the obligatory fasting of Ramadan the next day. And he would do that according to the school of Imam al-Shafi'i, radiallahu anhu. He would have this intention every night for the day that he wants to fast. And, I advise you here after Maghrib time, intend right away for the next day. And inshallah, you will not forget it. And suhoor, eating something before dawn, this is sunnah. Even if the person does not want to eat, the person just drinks water with the intention of suhoor, this is rewardable. It is sunnah. And when the person is doing that, he's doing that because he wants to fast the next day. So this is, and then an intention. He's doing that because he wants to fast the next day. Now we will talk about the matters that the person has to abstain from in order for the fasting to be valid. So one has to abstain from dawn until sunset. When I say sunset, this means until the whole disk of the sun has disappeared below the western horizon. And here I encourage you to be very cautious and not just to rely on anyone who is calling for the Maghrib prayer. So don't just by simply hearing somebody call the adhan for Maghrib, start breaking your fast right away. No, be cautious. You know, you have fasted the whole day. You can be patient and be cautious to make sure that the Maghrib time has really set in. So wait, because it has happened in many places, unfortunately, that a person called the Maghrib adhan for the Maghrib prayer when actually the sun had not yet declined completely. The whole disk of the sun had not yet declined completely below the western horizon. So be cautious here to make sure that Maghrib time has really set in before you break your fast. So then, from dawn until sunset, when fasting, one should abstain from sexual intercourse. Now, after that, after sunset, the married couple can have sexual intercourse, okay? After sunset and before dawn, they are permitted to have sexual intercourse during the month of Ramadan. Because subhanAllah, from time to time, we hear some people come up with fatwas that are not part of the religion. So we should be very cautious from whom we are taking the religious knowledge. So during the day when fasting, they abstain from sexual intercourse. And also, among the things, the matters that the fasting person should abstain from is masturbation. That is inducing ejaculation for mani to come out, the seminal, the sexual spermal fluid to come out, whether the person is doing that with his own hand or with his wife's hand, for example. And now when I'm saying with his hand, anyways, this is not permitted to be done. But while fasting, this is not permitted, whether with his hand or with the hand, for example, of his wife, for this invalidates his fasting if the person who is doing that does that while knowing that it invalidates the fasting, and this person is doing it willfully and intentionally while remembering that one is fasting. And one also has to refrain from inducing vomit, that is, to intentionally vomit. For if the person does that, this is among the matters that would invalidate the fasting, even if the person did not swallow anything back. But if he is doing that intentionally, while knowing that this is prohibited to be done while fasting, and the person is remembering that he is fasting, then this invalidates one's fasting when done willfully. And among the matters that the person should abstain from while fasting is apostasy, riddah in Arabic. And here, of course, the person should abstain from that at all times. What is apostasy? Riddah. Apostasy is opposite to belief. It interrupts the belief, invalidates the belief, abolishes it. So if a person was a Muslim and committed riddah, apostasy, he would no longer be a Muslim. But if he was fasting, it would also invalidate his fasting for that day. I will give an example of apostasy. The scholars divided it into 3 categories. They said apostasy is divided into 3 categories. Apostate sayings with the tongue, apostate beliefs in the heart, and apostate actions with parts of the body. So if a person commits apostasy of any of these categories, he would not be a Muslim anymore. And if he was fasting, the fasting would become invalid. So the person would have to become Muslim right away again by saying the two testifications of faith, the two shahada, not by saying astaghfirullah. No, the person does not become a Muslim by saying astaghfirullah. The person becomes a Muslim by saying the two shahada, the two justifications of faith. An example of apostasy, ridda, which is kufr, an example of apostate saying that is kufr, is to cuss Allah, or to cuss any of the prophets, or any of the angels, or the religion of Islam, or the month of Ramadan. Some people, they get angry and they belittle the month of Ramadan, or they cuss the month of Ramadan. This is apostasy. The person would not be a Muslim anymore if he does that. Among the apostate beliefs in the heart is if a person believed, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, that Allah is a body, because by that he would be resembling God to his creation. And among the belief of Muslims is that Allah is not like his creation at all. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. The Quran clearly teaches that Allah does not resemble his creation at all. So if a person believed, even if he did not say it, but if he believed that Allah has a body or a shape or a head or hands, or that he moves or is in a place or is in the sky or on earth, this is all blasphemous belief. He would become a non-Muslim by that. God is not like his creation at all. He existed without a place before creating all places, be it the sky, earth, the throne. Before creating all places, God existed without a place. And Allah does not change. He specifies change in his creation, but he does not change. So after creating all places, the sky, earth, Al-Arsh, the throne, God exists without a place. This is the belief of all Muslims. There is no difference in that among Muslims. So beware of those who say that Allah is in the sky, or who claim that he sits on the throne. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, we seek refuge with Allah from such a belief. Allah is not attributed with having a body. What sits has a body, has an upper part and a lower part. Allah is not a body. He is not attributed with sitting. What is in a place is a volume. Allah is not in the sky. He is not on the throne. He exists without a place, as he did before creating all places. And this is the belief of all Muslims. Be cautious and do not follow anybody who contradicts this and who claims that he is telling you about the belief of the Salaf or the companions. No, he would be contradicting the Quran if he claims that Allah is in the sky or that Allah sits. Allah does not have a body, and he is not like his creation at all. Among the examples of apostate actions is throwing the Quran in the trash, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, while knowing that it is the book of the Quran, or throwing a verse from the Quran in the trash, or stepping on it, or sitting on it. These are blasphemous actions. They make the person who commits them become a non-Muslim. So then if a person was fasting and he did any of these types of apostasy, ridda, his fasting becomes invalid and he is no longer a Muslim. So he has to immediately return to Islam by saying the two shahada, the two testifications of faith, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, or in any language that gives this meaning. No one is God except Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, to become a Muslim again. And the person would have to make up that day after Ramadan. So also when fasting, one should abstain from inducing any substance into the body cavity except one's pure and unmixed saliva that is from inside one's mouth while it is inside the mouth. So other than that, one should abstain from inducing any substance, meaning to introduce any substance through an open inlet, be it the mouth or the nose. The nose is also an open inlet, or the ear, according to some scholars as well, whether this thing is edible or not edible, even if it is as small as a sesame seed. So one should not induce any of that into an open inlet, into an open body cavity. Except we said one's pure saliva that is inside the mouth. Of course, the person can swallow his own unmixed saliva. Now, if a person was fasting and forgot and drank or ate something, this does not invalidate his fasting if he did that out of forgetting. Okay, so he forgot that he was fasting and he ate or drank. It does not invalidate his fasting. But of course, he stops. He does not continue. He stops. And if there is still something in his mouth, he rinses that. He doesn't continue swallowing after remembering. He rinses his mouth, making sure that he doesn't swallow anything anymore. And if a person sees him, then of course he reminds him that you are fasting, so you should stop eating, you should not eat. If it is still in his mouth, he throws it out. He does not swallow it after remembering that he is fasting. Among the matters that invalidate the fasting is becoming insane, crazy, even if just for a moment. That invalidates the fasting. As to losing consciousness, if it was for the whole entire day, from dawn until sunset, then it invalidates the fasting. Otherwise, if it was not for the whole day, then losing consciousness does not invalidate the fasting. As for sleeping, it does not invalidate the fasting. However, if the person is going to spend his whole day sleeping, he would be missing out on accumulating a lot of reward during this blessed month. So the person then should strive, put a plan. Today is the first day of Ramadan. SubhanAllah, it passes by very fast. Put a plan for yourself to study daily a lesson in the religious knowledge. And if you have not acquired obligatory knowledge, do that. Inshallah, we will have these daily. Invite your friends to attend daily a knowledge covering the obligatory knowledge of the religion, and dedicate time for other acts of worship as well. And remember the intention. Allah Ta'ala knows best. Let us say together Tahleel 3 times before we end, and inshallah, at the same time, we will continue tomorrow. I ask Allah Ta'ala to enable us to fast the blessed month of Ramadan, to grant us a sincere intention when performing the good deeds, and to grant us seeing Laylatul Qadr within this month, and to enable us to make dua during it. لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم رب اغفر لي وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات رب اغفر لي وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات رب اغفر لي وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات May Allah bless you. You're very welcome, my dear sister.